Today we'll be reading a new update. Thank you for tuning in. You see, everything I told y'all about the coronavirus is on the news now. About the plasma in the blood, and they're eventually going to say people will type A blood types are the one that dies the most. You hear it first here, this channel. I'm telling y'all, it was a targeted virus from aliens for reconfiguration of the genetic markers of human DNA for the Adamites that's part of their elimination. I told y'all. I can't breathe is the end of their time. Everything is coming down. You have to know the weather. You have to know the next thing that's going to happen. The next cycle is going to happen. Everybody's saying, when is Christ coming? When is Christ coming? They don't have a clue what they're saying. They don't get it. Now look at it like this. These people have all these weapons and are like, if the Russians do this, we have this kind of nuclear weapon. If the Chinese do this, we're going to do this. If the Americans do this, we're going to do this. Drones flying all over the place, but they get a virus and they don't know what to do. A boy gets killed on national television and they don't know what to do.
They're so prepared to fight, they're so prepared to be aggressive, that you miss the Christ. The whole principle of Christ was not to be aggressive, not to be violent. But these people don't seem to see that that's why they're not going to have his presence. Until they raise their level of thinking, and that's with purification, as I told y'all. And what did I say about racism? What's my favorite saying? No one wins the race in racism. Now you see the love of all people coming together. No way in the world are you going to stop that. It's only a handful of black people still saying black power and white people yelling white power. There's a bunch of Euro-Americans and Negro-Americans, but for the majority of people, their hearts are changing. I'm here to warn y'all. Don't duck when the truth is thrown at you.
They can't tell you what this coronavirus is. They can't tell you, they say, right? So they'll say, oh, the Chinese did it. The Chinese will say, get the crap out of here. You all did it. You all are not putting the ball in our court. However, none of them can tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you what it is. That is what they don't want. Now, you do know what your genetic markers are. It is your double helix. You do know what transposons are. Transposons is when a gene can be adjusted. A chromosome can shift by some type of outside influence. That means a mutation can take place by transposons. So what that means is if you have a DNA structure, your makeup of the human pattern, and they come in pairs, as you know, like the 4 letters for the nucleotides or nitrogen bases, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. The 2 sides of the helix are 2 strands of nucleotides, a sugar group, and the other side, a phosphate group. Picture that's why they call it the mark of the beast in the Bible, because it has to do with genetic markers on the double helix. Then they tell you, wow, we had a large cigar-shaped meteorite that passed by a couple months ago. And it's strange because this thing seems to be intelligently controlled, and they talk about that on the History Channel. They say they don't know what this thing was, however, it came from outer space here. Something comes from outer space, and they now found out that it can transport spores here, bacteria, and cells. Every race on the planet has been touched by this sun halo virus, because that's what it really means. For sun people, children of the sun are protected. I told my people years ago what the whole purpose of them being here in this country is. The plasma in their body, because Nagar Nadu, Negroids, Keloid, because they have the most plasma in their bodies. Again, this is what the slave trade was about. Plasma is a defense mechanism for healing in the body. Asians have a lot of plasma. Indians have a lot of plasma. Aborigines have a lot of plasma. Negroes have a lot of plasma. And that's why they're here. It was all about blood. Okay, so now the first thing that happened after the spread was some kind of respiratory thing. People were breathing it in. The next thing they did was say, we need to get blood because they found out a lot of blacks were dying. Well, that's because blacks have hands-on contact to you all from all the medial jobs in the country. Blacks are not dying because of their DNA structure. Their DNA structure has a defense against it, the virus. That's why they follow and say, well, enough heat and it goes away. Remember, the maps on television were showing the world, yet if you watch it, they had to change it because Africa didn't have any orange and yellow. It was always gray. The only place they had orange and yellow in Africa on the maps on television and the news was around the northeastern part of Africa and South Africa because of the generations of Mus'bat'u Europeans from Holland that have been living in South Africa, or Afrikaners. And then as you come up to Ethiopia, to Egypt, all the way to Algeria and Morocco, all those people got it because those people are not really African. They're Italian and they're French. The Turkish and Italian and French that invaded, so they got it. So what's the strongest place? Italy. Where did Mussolini go? Ethiopia. Where did the flu hit after China? Italy. Now let's go back. Where did the flus and virus come from? Where did influenza come from? Spain. Where did Ebola come from? Rome, not Africa. Look it up. It's a Roman disease. These people are diseased, and there is a concentrated effort to eliminate them by aliens who they call God. When a Muslim says Allah, he is talking about an extraterrestrial. When a Jew says Hashem, he's talking about extraterrestrials. If you look in the Bible in Job, chapter 9, verse 9, you see each one of the extraterrestrial groups they're talking about right there. They list them for you to know. When they say Anunnaki, that's nothing except Anakim, and it has to do with the extended neck. If you look at the European woman, she's the one with the little head and the long neck. These are who you're talking about. That craft that came through here that they have marked as a meteorite that looks like a large rock, yet with the cigar shape, look it up in the news, cigar-shaped craft. And you'll see it came in through here from out of space and it released spores into the air. And those spores, when it struck down in India, turned all the water red. And then they went into the underwater and they produced this new species on the planet now.
From the observations we have so far, it looks like it's a very elongated object, maybe about a quarter mile in length.
We think this object, 2017 U1, is very long, perhaps 400 meters or so long, and very narrow, skinny, perhaps maybe 40 meters or so in the other dimensions. That's a very unusual shape. We don't see that in our solar system. None of the asteroids in our solar system look like that. So it's very puzzling how it could have obtained this shape.
We also see that it's very reddish.
The planet is being restocked for the next 24,000 year cycle by aliens who are putting life forms in the form of jellyfish and new chromosomes. Now, to point out the coronavirus is a readjustment of the chromosome structure of human beings. They have put something in the air that human beings are breathing in and is going to reconfigure or mutate the human DNA. That's what's going on because they keep talking about it and saying, if the aliens want to get us, all they have to do is use a virus or bacteria. And that's exactly what they're doing. What's bothering the Adamites, and we're not Adamites, is that they will be the first to go because they have a compromised immune system. They're not like us. We have plasma. We're not the hemoglobins. We're not the hemophiliacs who came here. This is a first step. It's all coming worse. Their deadline ended when they had that meeting. The biggest meeting they had was in the Bohemian Grove in Northern California, when the Bohemian Brotherhood or Bohemian cult of all the world leaders met. And that was on 9/9/1999 to find out if they would get an extension of time. The extension was denied for the Adamite species of hybrid. Every July 15th, look it up, all the world leaders meet at Bohemian Grove in California. They have a 40-foot owl, a barn owl of stone with an altar on it, and all the grand masters of the highest societies and politicians and millionaires are there. They met there and they have a ritual of Lilith. Moloch, who is Nanar, son of Enlil, represents this.
What is another movement that's prominent in the world right now?
that's starting to come out the closet. LGBT. The mental part is not the problem. The physical part is the problem. You know what Baphomet is? The Mendez. There is a symbol called Baphomet, the goat of Mendez. It's the head of a goat in the shape of a 5-pointed star, and it has Leviathan written around it in Hebrew letters. It's called Satanism. That creature that's sitting there is what you called androgynous. It has the face of a ram, yet a man. It has breasts and arms of a female, and it has the lower part of a goat with a male's phallus. That is what they're calling transgender agenda. And when you go to Leviticus chapter 17, verse 7, you'll see they sacrifice to the devil. And when you look up the word devil under Strong's Concordance number 8163, you see satires. And that's Pan, a goat creature called Azazel also. Those are the beings that they have been worshiping, and they have a ritual where on the 15th every year, they sacrifice a 12-year-old girl right there. The next meeting takes place at Mount Shasta, and inside there, that's where all the visitors that have made deals with the presidents of the world with aliens who've come here and been here made deals with them. They give them technology for human food with human beings, and in the Bible, contrary to what people believe, when you see the word for covenant, covenant in Hebrew is berith. If you look up in the Strong's Concordance, it comes out from the Hebrew's word bara, which means food. It means to eat. It means flesh. That's why they sometimes say, "You mean the covenant of flesh?" and make it look like they're pertaining to circumcision. And if you ask them, what's the purpose of circumcision? They can't give it to you. The next meeting takes place inside Mount Shasta, and that's where the aliens agreed and said, nope, in 2000 AD, there will be no more extensions for the Adamites. They must be eliminated. They are chaotic. They have spread diseases. They are responsible for pornography, syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes. Because of their involvement in bestiality, their genetic structure is messed up and it can't be upgraded. So what they did is they said it's time for them to be eliminated. They gave them a deadline, and the deadline was when? 2000 AD. And that's why after 2000 AD, you see these tremendous big triangular crafts, miles long. They went to the first landing point in Nome, Alaska. If you see the movie called The Fourth Kind, you'll see they're talking about Nome, Alaska. That was the first abduction for 144,000. All over Alaska, taking people as food. The offerings in the Bible and Quran are offerings to carnivorous, cannibalistic creatures. And that's why they keep saying, we don't know why they're here and what they're doing. What they're here for, if you read the book and the language, and stop letting Germans come in Middle Eastern countries and take Hebrew Bibles and transfer it into German, then it's transferred to French, then it gets translated to Latin, then it's transferred to Greek, then it's transferred to English, and then you have no idea what it's saying. It's the same thing with the Quran. They have about 1 million translations. It's because the original one, they lost it. They never really seen the original. Now they dig up certain books. They found the book of Enoch. They found the book of Judith. Found the book of Mary Magdala, not Magdalene. Magdalene is a place in Jerusalem. Magdala is a place in Egypt. Jesus' wife was from Magdala. She was an Egyptian. Moses was the brother of Akhenaten. His name was Tahutimus. He was the religion in Jerusalem. So, this virus are spores that was released by aliens intentionally to do exactly what it is doing. And it has affected everybody, yet it will not affect people with high levels of body heat. They have colored people blonding their hair. They go to do blonde because your black hair draws the heat of the sun. Every woman you see now on the commercial on television now has red hair and green eyes. They call them Basques people. They're located in the area between northern Spain and southern France. They're Rh negative blood type. Nobody was supposed to marry them, because they were a weapon used by the Palladians to destroy people that resulted in the Black Plague. If you want to know what the coronavirus is, do your research and you'll find out Pops is not nuts. Thank you for watching. For more information, please visit freedoctoreurope.com.
Wadu Moisar. As we know, there has been a longing fight for our beloved Master Teacher's freedom with so much progress along the way. But the fight is still on until we bring him home as a collective unit. With much intensity and so much happening in the world, it's imperative that we don't lose sight of him. All help is needed at this time so that we may continue with his freedom fight. If you would like to help contribute, we ask that you all please direct all donations to Acts of Kindness Donate at Outlook.com. Tawakum.